Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayasva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Agnanati Vinandasya Gnanandana Shalakaya Chakshurunditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauravaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare 332-31 इत्येतत् कथितं गुर्वी ज्ञानं तद्ब्रह्म दर्शनं येनानुबुध्यते तत्त्वं प्रकृते पुरुषस्य च. My dear respectful mother, I have already described the path of understanding the absolute truth, by which one can come to understand the real truth of matter and spirit and their relationship. ज्ञानयोगश्च मन्निष्ठो नैर्गुण्यो भक्तिलक्षणः द्वयोरप्येक एवार्थो भगवच्छब्दलक्षणः. Philosophical research culminates in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After achieving this understanding, when one becomes free from the material modes of nature, he attains the stage of devotional service. So this is the same as Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. So samas sarveshu bhuteshu or Brahma Bhuta, he is becoming free from modes. And when we become free from modes, actually we attain stage of devotional service. So we can understand that we have still not attained stage of devotional service because that is pure devotional service, what we will achieve at that point of time. Either by devotional service directly or by philosophical research, one has to find the same destination, which is the Supreme Person of Godhead. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many lives, Bhunam Janmanam Ante Gnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. Such a person is very rare, and therefore is after comes to the point of knowing Vasudeva is everything, he surrenders unto him. Such serious students in philosophical research are rare because they are very great souls. In philosophical research means Gnanis. So such serious student Gnanis are very rare because they don't come to this point of accepting Vasudeva as a all Sarvasva. If by philosophical research one cannot come to the point of understanding the Supreme Person, then his task is not finished. His research, his search in knowledge is still to be continued until he comes to the point of understanding the Supreme Lord in devotional service. The opportunity for direct touch with this personality of Godhead is given in Bhagavad Gita, where it is also said that those who take to other processes, namely the process of philosophical speculation, gnana, and mystic yoga, Ashtanga yoga, have much trouble. After many, many years of much trouble, a yogi or wise philosopher may come to him, but his path is very troublesome. Whereas the path of devotional service is Sukham Kartum Avyam, is easy for everyone. One can achieve the result of wise philosophical speculation simply by discharging devotional service. And unless one reaches the point of understanding the person of Godhead by his mental speculation, all his research work is said to be simply a labor of love. So for those who are on the path of Gnana, till they come to understand Supreme Lord, everything is wasted effort. The ultimate destination of the wise philosopher is to merge in the impersonal Brahman. But the Brahman, that Brahman is the effulgence of the Supreme Person. Lord says, Brahmanoi Pratishtaham Amtasya Vyayasya. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is indestructible, Avyaya and Amrita, supreme bliss. The Lord is the supreme reservoir of all pleasure, including Brahman pleasure. Therefore, one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Person of Godhead is said to be already realized in impersonal Brahman, Paramatma. So, one who has unflinching faith, Prabhupada here is not talking about a realized state. He's saying one who has unflinching faith is said to be already realized in impersonal Brahman and Paramatma, which means just having faith in Supreme Person of Godhead means we've already reached the stage of realization. But this unflinching faith means pure devotion. Unflinching faith means complete dependence, complete surrender, completely knowing Krishna's supreme position, not asking for anything material, no, etc., etc. That is unflinching faith, unwavering faith. So if somebody is already in the stage of unwavering, unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, then he's already realized Brahman and Paramatma. यतेन्द्रियै पृथग्द्वारेर् अर्थो बहुगुणाश्रयः एको नानेयते तद्वद् भगवान् शास्त्रवर्त्मभिः. A single object is appreciated differently by different senses due to its having different qualities. Single object is appreciated differently by different senses due to its having different qualities. Similarly, the Supreme Person of Godhead is one, but according to different scriptural injunction, he appears to be different. It appears that by following the path of jnana, one reaches the impersonal Brahman, whereas by executing devotion, one enriches his faith in and devotion to the personality of Godhead. But it is stated here that both bhakti yoga and jnana yoga are meant for reaching the same destination, personality of Godhead. By the process of jnana yoga, same personality of Godhead appears to be impersonal uh, because of limited understanding. The same object appears to be different when perceived by different senses. Same Supreme Lord appears to be impersonal by mental speculation. This is a very good example. A hill appears cloudy from a distance, and one who does not know may speculate that the hill is a cloud. Actually, it is not a cloud, it's a big hill. One has to learn from authority that the sight of a cloud is not actually a cloud but a hill. If one makes little more progress, then instead of a cloud, he sees the hill and something green. When one actually approaches the hill, he will see many varieties. Such a beautiful example, of seeing a hill from a far off distance. It might look like a cloud, then we come slightly near, then we see a hill and we see some greenery. When we come even closer, then we see all the variegatedness. Another example is in perceiving milk. When we see milk, we see that it is white. When we taste it, it appears that milk is very palatable. When we touch milk, it appears very cold. When we smell milk, it appears to have very good flavor. And when we hear, we understand that it's called milk. Perceiving milk with different senses, we say that it is something white, something very delicious, something very aromatic, and so on. Actually, it is milk. Similarly, those who are trying to find the Supreme Godhead by mental speculation may approach the bodily effulgence or the impersonal Brahman. And those who are trying to find the Supreme Godhead by yoga practice may find him as a localized super soul. But those who are directly trying to approach the Supreme Truth by practice of Bhakti Yoga can see him face to face as the Supreme Person. Ultimately, the Supreme Person is the destination for all different processes. Meaning somebody who comes to impersonal Brahman also eventually has to come to Supreme Person. The fortunate person who, by following the principles of scriptures, becomes completely purified of all material contamination. This is the important part. And he surrenders unto the Supreme Lord as everything Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Mm. So just engaging in activities of bhakti is just right now helping us to purify. It's just purifying us. But the actual stage when pure bhakti will start, that will start only when we are completely purified of all material contamination. That is Brahma Bhuta. So till we come to Brahma Bhuta, we can't come to pure devotional service. We are in devotional service, but we are in uh, just on the path to pure devotional service. We might be on the initial stages of pure devotion, which means that we might still have some contamination, or we might be very much far away from pure devotion, which means that we are completely engrossed in mixed devotion. Whatever be the path, we have still not reached pure devotion. And this pure devotion is happens in that Brahmabhuta stage when we are free from material contamination. Why is that? Because till then we are still concerned about this body and everything associated with it. So then we will, it's not free from contamination. So when we become completely freed from contamination, that is Brahmabhuta. When we surrender fully unto the Supreme Lord. Just as one can appreciate the real taste of milk with the tongue and not with the eyes, nostrils, or ears, one can similarly appreciate the absolute truth perfectly and with all relishable pleasure only through one path, devotional service. Bhagavad Gita says, Bhaktya Mama Vijanati. If one wants to understand the absolute truth in perfection, he must take to devotional service. Of course, no one can understand the absolute truth in all perfection. That is not possible for the infinitesimal living entities. But the highest point of understanding by the living entity is reached by discharge of devotional service, not otherwise. So whatever highest point one can reach in this material world is only through devotion. Mm, because we are all infinitesimal. Unless our spiritual body is fully developed, we can't experience Krishna fully. By following various scriptural paths, one may come to the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Personality of God. Transcendental pleasure derived from merging with or understanding the impersonal Brahman is very extensive because Brahman is Ananta. That Brahman Nishkalam Anantam. Brahmanda is unlimited. But that unlimited pleasure can also be surpassed. So this Brahma Sukha itself is Ananta, but that also can be surpassed. Chaitanya Charitamrita says that it is like a million times more than Brahman pleasure, uh, the pleasure that one gets by realizing when he realizes Bhagavan Krishna is a million times more than what one experiences when he realizes Brahman. That is the nature of the transcendence. The unlimited can also be surpassed, and that higher platform is Krishna. When one deals directly with Krishna, the mellow and the humor relished by reciprocation of devotional service is incomparable, even with the pleasure derived from transcendental Brahman. That is why in the Brahman feature, Ananda is not there. Actually, Ananda is there only in Bhagavan. Prabodhananda Saraswati therefore says that Kaivalya, Brahman pleasure, is undoubtedly very great and is appreciated by many philosophers. But to a devotee, Kaivalya Narakayate, who has understood how to derive pleasure from exchanging devotional service with the Lord, this unlimited Brahman appears to be Naraka, hellish. Therefore, one should try to descend even the Brahman pleasure in order to approach the position of dealing with Krishna face to face. As the mind is the center of all activities of the senses, Krishna is called the master of the senses, Rishikesha. The process is to fix the mind on Rishikesha or Krishna, as Maharaj Parikshit did. Savaimana Krishna Padaravindayo. Bhakti is the basic principle of all processes. Without bhakti, neither Gnana Yoga nor Astanga Yoga can be successful. And unless one approaches Krishna, the principles of self-realization have no ultimate destination. So we are so fortunate. Somehow or the other, we have come to this path. We have started to go towards Krishna. And so we have to just understand that we are very fortunate and we don't throw it away. We just remain fixed, uh, remain serious, sincere, and make progress and achieve perfection in this life and not plan to come back. Come back not just to Bhumi, but even to Swarga. We don't want to come back to this miserable material world where one cannot actually um, engage in bhakti without obstacles, right? So many obstacles here to bhakti. So we can do bhakti here as well. It's not that we can't do, but uh, it has its own challenges. But when once we go to the spiritual world, it's a different world altogether. क्रियया क्रतुभिर्दानैस्तपस्वाध्यायमर्शनैः आत्मेन्द्रियजयेनापि सन्न्यासेन च कर्मणां योगेन विविधाङ्गेन भक्तियोगेन चैव हि धर्मेणोभयचिह्नेन यः प्रवृत्तिनिवृत्तिमान् आत्मतत्त्वावबोधेन वैराग्येण दृढेन च ईयते भगवान् एभिः सगुणो निर्गुणः स्वदृक्. By performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, by performing austerities, studying various literatures, conducting philosophical research, by controlling the mind, subduing the senses, accepting the renounced order, performing prescribed duties of one social order, performing different divisions of yoga, performing, actually this is not, okay, I don't know whether it should call this devotional service, but this is, okay, actually it says devotional service. By devotional service, by exhibiting the process of devotional service containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the science of self-realization, and by developing a strong sense of detachment. One who is expert in understanding the different process of self-realization Realizes Supreme Personality of Godhead as is present, represented in the material world as well as in transcendence. So, which means that there are so many paths to realize Krishna. So many paths. So, obviously, in this material world, when we tell people to come to bhakti, they will have so many objections because there are so many other paths also. But of course, we know that the easiest and the fastest and the best is pure devotion. As it is stated in the previous verse, one has to follow the principles of the scriptures. There are different prescribed duties for different persons in different social and spiritual orders. Here it is stated that performance of fruitive activities and sacrifices and distribution of charity are activities for persons who are in the Grihastha. So there are four orders: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. For Grihasthas, performance of sacrifices, distribution of charity, and action according to prescribed duties are especially recommended. So even with that, even by following these things, sacrifices, charity, and doing our prescribed duties, one gradually comes to the platform of understanding the Supreme Lord. Similarly, austerity, study of Vedic literature, and philosophical research are meant for Vanaprasthas. Study of Vedic literature from bona fide Guru is meant for Brahmachari. Atmendriya Jaya, control of the mind and taming of the senses, is meant for persons in renounced order. All these different activities are prescribed for different persons so that they may be elevated to the platform of self realization and from there to Krishna consciousness. The words Bhakti Yogena Chaivahi mean that whatever is to be performed, as described in verse 34, whether yoga or sacrifice or fruitive activity or study of Vedic literature, etc., is to be executed in Bhakti Yoga. The words Chaivahi, according to Sanskrit grammar, indicate that one must perform all these activities mixed with the devotional service. Otherwise, such activities will not produce any fruit. Any prescribed activity must be performed for the sake of the Supreme Lord. But this is Karma Yoga. Yat karoshi yad ashnasi. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, whatever austerities you undergo, whatever charities you give, result should be given to Supreme Lord. But this is just Karma Yoga. But there is yoga. The important thing is that it has to be mixed with devotion. The word eva is added, indicating that one must execute activities in such a way. Unless one adds devotional service to all activities, he cannot achieve the desired result. But when Bhakti Yoga is prominent in every activity, then the ultimate goal is sure. So again, I've discussed this many times, but when karma is predominant, but yoga is not prominent, is secondary, that is called karma yoga. Meaning it is simply adding devotional service to karma. But bhakti yoga means only devotional service. Meaning bhakti yoga is prominent. Bhakti yoga is prominent, and ultimately bhakti yoga must be the only thing. First is bhakti yoga is less, then bhakti yoga becomes prominent. Then bhakti yoga remains the only thing, meaning no karma, no jnana, nothing. That is pure devotion. Anyabilashita shunyam, jnana karmad anavritam. Completely devoid of karma and jnana. Right? Till there is some part of karma or jnana, it is um, uh, not the highest platform.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you just
Yeah.
explain this again? Adding bhakti
Yeah.
to karma. I did
Yeah.
not get this.
Yeah.
Because
When somebody is,
bhakti means that there's no karma. You don't come into bhakti because of karma, isn't it? It is independent.
no, no, it is
Right.
independent, but when I'm doing karma, that means that I'm engaged in then just whatever normal material activities, etc. But I say Krishna Arpanamastu, meaning I do whatever I want. I don't really care. But at the end of it, I simply just offer something to Krishna as a matter of, uh, you know, obligation or just like a checklist. Somebody has said, okay, somebody has said, do your work, offer some result to Krishna. So, like Krishna is saying here in Bhagavad Gita, Yat karoshi, yadashnasi. Whatever you do, he's not saying do only things that are that I want you to do. He's not saying that. He's saying whatever you do, you still offer something to me. This is karma yoga, wherein we are simply adding some little tinge of bhakti to karma. Meaning we are living our material life and little bit we added bhakti in our life. Right? So this is adding devotional service to other activities. But actually, when we make progress, this Instead of simply adding bhakti to our activities, we add activities to our bhakti, meaning bhakti becomes predominant and karma or whatever else we are doing becomes secondary. That is the next level of progress. And the ultimate stage is when literally karma or gnana becomes zero. And 100% of the time we are simply engaged in bhakti. That is the purest, most perfect platform. So this is the general progression for people. First, they are engaged in karma and they add some little bit of devotional service to their life. Then devotional service starts becoming more and more prominent. Finally, only devotional service remains and karma and gnana is removed. That is the path
Yes, Prabhu.
for
Got it.
pure devotion.
Thank you, Prabhu.
One has to approach the Supreme Person of Godhead Krishna as it is stated, Janbonam Janmanam Ante, and surrender unto him. Bhagavad Gita also says, Bhokraram Yagna Tapasam, for anyone who is undergoing rigid austerity, or for anyone performing different kinds of sacrifices, the beneficiary is the Supreme Lord. He is the proprietor of all planets and is the friend of every living soul. But these are all, this is all very initial stage of Gnana. Hmm. Just to tell people saying that, hey, you are not the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer. Krishna is your friend. That is as Paramatma, not as Krishna himself. Because with Krishna, there are different relations, right? You can be a servant. But here he's saying friend, which means Paramatma. His friend, how? Because he's in our heart and he's telling this right, this wrong, do this, do that. He's the proprietor. So this is just Paramatma relationship with Paramatma. But this is not the supreme relation, right? This is just for those who are very materially engaged, just making them conscious, saying that, hey, you're not supposed to be the enjoyer. Uh, Paramatma is the enjoyer. But then we have to make progress and come to bhakti. The words dharmeno bhaya chinnena mean that the bhakti yoga process contains two symptoms, namely attachment to for the Supreme Lord and detachment from all material affinities. See, it is both. It's not just one of them. There are two symptoms of advancement in the process of devotional service, just as there are two processes taking place while eating. A hungry man feels strength and satisfaction, at the same time becomes detached from eating anymore. So as the person gets strength and satisfaction, his desire to eat more reduces generally, unless one is just overeating. Right? Generally, a man is hungry, so he has a lot of urge to eat. And as he starts eating, he gains strength, satisfaction, and his urge to eat keeps on reducing. And then he says, okay, enough. I don't want any more. Similarly, with execution of devotional service, real knowledge develops and one becomes detached. Again, multiple times Bhagavatam speaks about this. If we are actually making progress in devotional service, attachment to Krishna has to increase and attachment to material things has to decrease. So very natural process. It's very abnormal if this doesn't happen. It's very abnormal if one doesn't become detached from material activities. Uh, it can't be that one's attachment to Krishna has increased, but one's attachment to material activities has also increased. It can't be. There's just only when one goes up, the other has to come down because that is the nature. When one becomes attached to Krishna, then naturally he should become detached from material activities. So then, if this is not happening, that means then we have to really question the attachment to Krishna itself. Is it really attachment, or is it like semblance of attachment? Then that is called bhakti abhasa or mishra bhakti. When we have not really developed attachment to Krishna, it just looks like attachment to Krishna. But real attachment means detachment from material activities naturally. In no other activity but devotional service is there such detachment. See, no other activity is there such detachment from matter and attachment for the Supreme. There are 9 different processes to increase this attachment to the Supreme Lord, hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. Process for increasing detachment are explained in verse 36. One can achieve elevation to the higher planetary systems like heavenly kingdom by executing one's prescribed duties, performing sacrifices. When one is transcendental to such desires, because of accepting sannyas, he can understand the Brahman feature of the Supreme. And one is when one is able to see his real constitutional position, he sees all other process and becomes situated in the stage of pure devotional service. At that time, he can understand Bhagavan. Right? So one who comes to does sannyas. This is typical sannyas, not Vaishnava sannyas, Jnani sannyas. So then he can understand Brahman, and then he has to come to bhakti. But for us, we are already engaged in bhakti. Bhakti itself is purifying us, will bring us to the stage of Brahma Bhuta, and will take us further to the stage of Prema. Um, so for us, it is the same process from start to end. But for Jnanis, it is Jnana, and then they have to come to bhakti. So that's why Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, very troublesome. Because they have to forget everything they had learnt as part of the Gnana process. Because the Gnana process is very inferior. Uh, so bhakti is the safest and best. Understanding of the Supreme Person is called Atma Tattva Avabodhena, which means understanding one's real constitutional position. If one actually understands one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor, he becomes detached from the service of the material world. See, again, everyone engages in some sort of one does not know one's constitutional position, one engages in the service of his personal gross body or his family, society, or country. But as soon as one is able to see his constitutional position, he becomes detached from such material service and engages himself in devotional service. It's very, very clear. Either we can be attached in material service or devotional service. Right now we have little bit of devotional service and lot of material service. And those ratios have to keep changing as we make progress. Or if we are making progress, that ratio has to change. Mm. As long as one is in the modes of nature and is performing the duties prescribed in the scriptures, he can be elevated to Swarga, where the predominating deities are material representations of the Supreme Lord, like the sun god, moon god, air god, Brahma, Lord Shiva. They're all material representations. All the different demigods are material representations of the Supreme Lord. By material activities, one can approach only such demigods. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. Those who are attached to demigods and perform their prescribed duties can approach the abodes of demigods. In this way, one can go to the planet of Pitas or forefathers. Similarly, when one who fully understands the real position of his life adopts devotional service and realizes the Supreme Personality of God. So all these verses, sometimes we might think, wow, I mean, is there really anything helping me in my progress in devotional service? Yes, it's giving us the faith and confidence that we are on the best path and that we should not get stuck or waver here and there and simply stick on to that path and just move forward and we will achieve perfection. And other paths are so troublesome, no guarantee of where we are going to end up. Bhakti, there is guarantee, supreme guarantee that we are going to end up in Krishna. But provided we want to, that is the only challenge on the process of bhakti. The process itself is not uh, questionable or is not, is complete. The process complete, unlike other processes. But it just depends on our desire. If we really want to achieve perfection, we can. If you want to achieve material service, yeah, that we have already. We've been doing it for so many lifetimes. We can continue to do it. Nobody's going to prevent us. Okay, we'll stop here. If anybody has any questions. Anything? Okay, nothing. Then we'll stop. Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo namo namo Nanda Koti Vaishnava. Hare Krishna.